Well, you know, I've been looking forward to this one. He made more than 80 appearances on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
And you used to watch those appearances.
Yeah, I did.
The only
remember.
reason your parents let you stay up.
Yeah, that and Phyllis Diller.
Really, an entire generation of Americans knew this guy. At the time, he was probably as famous as anybody in the country. You say his name, though, and today's younger generation would probably say, who? See, tonight on Now and Then, we are going to introduce you to somebody called Monti Rock III.
And I was the first legal freak to be. I didn't belong in the straight world, I didn't belong in the gay world. But Johnny Carson saw something in me.
What Johnny Carson saw, uniqueness. A gay Puerto Rican hairstylist from the Bronx with a cabaret act. The Carson Show became Monti's coming out, if you will, a success. And then something bizarre happens on the air. You go on the Johnny Carson Show and say that you're not going to be on the Johnny Carson Show anymore, that you're going to go into your own business.
I'm going to open a beauty shop. I bought these sassoon shops, yeah.
And then you go out and almost kill yourself.
Yes, I wanted to kill myself. I didn't tell my parents or anybody. I wanted to kill myself because I felt I hit the top. In 1971, I felt I'd done everything.
And as a result of that, Johnny says, I feel sorry for this guy. I want to bring him back, and I'm going to give him a contract to be a regular on the show.
No. Would you like to come back on the show? I said, it's 3 months, and they order their whole week. Most people come back in show business after 10 years. I came back 3 months later, and the audience loved it.
In fact, America had fallen in love with Monti Rock, but Hollywood insiders were less than impressed.
They picketed NBC. Phil Foster tried to ruin me. Entertainers picketed agencies.
Why?
Because they saw someone like me who couldn't define my talent. I wasn't a singer. I wasn't an actor. I was a personality.
Yet, despite the resistance, he lasted 17 years on The Tonight Show and sold 7 million disco records, all in his own unique way. Blame yourself when you go out in public looking very different from the way everyone else looks.
I just wave. Hello. Hi. And give them flyers.
Are you flattered by it, or are you bothered?
I'm flattered. Of course I'm flattered, because I know that it's harmless.
You know, it's funny, because of this retro thing that we're going to, he's getting big again.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of
all
people
over
love to
again.
go to his shows, love to watch him, and he's in clubs all over town now.
I got a TV show! I got a TV show!
Do you know who Monti Rock III is?
I've never heard of him.
I'm talking to you out there.
He's a legend.
Maybe in his own mind.
I have a talk show because I talk and talk and talk.
I couldn't be less interested, really.
Where my fan? Did we pay the fan?
No,
Can you believe it? Monti Rock has a show.
no.
Hey, you're here. The Monti Rock show, right?
Give me tickets for your show.
Story of Joseph Moses Monti Jr., that's my given name. Born in the Bronx, Forest Avenue, 156th Street. Both parents are deceased. My mother and father were two Pentecostal preachers who raised these 6 children in the Bronx. I being the youngest of the children, was breech perf, raised by my mom to be a religious. Now I always use this line, people don't get it. My parents, when they saw me come out of the womb, I'm breech perf, thought I was the Dalai Lama. Being that I was chosen son. I had my name Joseph Moses Monti Jr. has my father's name, my grandfather's name, my mother's name, because I'm the chosen, in Puerto Rican, the chosen son. So early in life, the church, Pentecostal, they indoctrinated the God and fear. But getting back to the story, as a child, breech birth, I had a hernia, I was in the hospitals, my parents never visited me. We had nurses, my parents, both of them worked. I was a very strange, isolated child. Because I think one thing I now know is that you're born gay. I don't choose. I love women, so early in life I saw boiler rooms in the Bronx. I was raped. By the time I was 11, I was having sex already, and it became a useful tool to me actually later on in life. But my parents.
Could you describe the rape?
Well, the first time the rape in New York was that I used to go to church and pray all night, and there's a guy called Ephraim, a young guy who had this very big dick, and I forget, I never looked at the dick, and told me, you want to touch it? I had to be 11 years old. This continued for a year or something, and he said, you want to see something come out of the thing? I swear this happened in church. And then it kept happening like that for my cousins and seeing the boiler rooms, but again, I didn't find anything wrong with it until I went to school and a teacher locked me in a closet and raped me in a closet. It was very terrible at the time. Part of this whole thing, one of the great stories that happened to me, again, my parents tried to isolate me by the church thing because we weren't allowed to watch television. We didn't smoke. We were Pentecostal, so being this church thing, they kept telling me about God and about how I'm going to be saving all these people. But I sang in church as a child and began to sing my mother's sermon. I was singing "Noro yo porque será," and bring my mother up. I did her hair, Monti Rock. This is how it began. But my parents, because I was born with a hernia, I couldn't walk very well. I one day left the house at maybe 9, and we lived on 156th Street in a Jewish neighborhood that went Puerto Rican. My parents were like slumlords, so they kept all us children in one room as they rented the other apartments. And I went out the street and was walking. I was like think of Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. I walked down the street, and these little black kids came up to me and said, and they surrounded me, and I never saw black people. I said, I went, wow, man, and they surrounded me and said, hey, little boy. I said, and I was looking, maybe I became a hairdresser, I had cone curl or something. Do you want to see stars? And I said, yes. And they hit me on a rock and broke my head open, and that's the joke. You want to see stars? That was the beginning of me not trusting. Then my parents found out I was gay and had the church women exercise me because of gay is against God.
How do you know you were gay?
Because my sister betrayed me by a guy called Jules Alanchuk was writing me letters. They took me to Florida. He's writing me letters, giving me money. And my sister gave letters to my father and mother, and they brought me to the church deacon, the woman, and they surrounded me and beat me for 3 days to beat the faggot out of me.
But did you know you were gay?
I didn't know what gay was.
But I mean, you were raped before you knew you were gay, right?
But I didn't know. You don't. I'm being normal. In those days, what was gay? It was just, to me, it was an act. It wasn't. I wasn't even attracted to men.
So you were just acting feminine, perhaps?
Never acted feminine.
So how did they think you were gay?
Well, people know. They gravitate. You're young and you're pretty. People gravitate when they're dirty old men. I think that part of the Latin culture is that everybody wants their dick sucked. It's a logic that I've always used. But anyway, that happened to me a lot. And my parents let me out of the house. I was kept by this guy. I was an usher. I sold stockings, gold medal stockings. I made my own money to buy clothes. Was in every school play. I was an isolated, kind of lonely child with no sense of who I was. But I lived in Fantasyland. Fantasyland was that I used to drape fabrics on me. I did school plays. I played the piano. I lived in a Fantasyland. I made up this lady called Jean Martin to tell my mother I wanted to stay in Manhattan. That's when I was going to Chuck's house. And Chuck had a place in Fire Island. He called me Sybil, which I never liked the faggots. To this day, I find it very offended. It's offensive to me, the faggots, even then, Fire Island, it offended me. So I had this world. I didn't belong in the gay world. I didn't belong in the straight world. I didn't belong in, I don't know what fucking world I belonged in. So again, I wasn't a whore, and I have to say that I had to survive, and I didn't know how to survive. Men were my way out, older men. I met Jules for a couple of years, and I had Scott Catalano, who trained me and made Monti and created Liza Doolittle, gave me the accent, gave me a house, took me to Kenneth Lydachet, created Monti,
How did you get the name Monti?
That is a great story. Okay, nobody would hire me because I was straight out of beauty school, and I was an assistant first. I went to Bailey's on 7th Avenue, walked in, and he tried me out. He liked me, and he said, what's your name? I said, my name is Joseph. He said, I'm sorry, but we have another Joseph. We can hire you. Can you tell me about your name? I said, well, my last name is Montañez, Jose Montañez. He said, Montanez. He said, Monti. It stuck in my head. I became Monti. And from Monti, it stuck to me. It just belonged. And I did hair there, and then I moved.
Where did rock come from?
Well, that's later on. The rock came later on. So the Monti, I went to work. I had left this guy. I was working for Rose Reddy, who had Jaja Gabor, had Sidney Golunov. I was very young, and had all these people. But she didn't know what to do with me. I was a genius, but she didn't see the match. Jaja came in there, but she wouldn't let me I wanted to do her hair, but she wouldn't let me because I was like an art person. That's why I met Pauline Kiernan. Now here's how my fame happened. The models kept coming to me. People from Plaza 5. I was a child. Paul Wagner, who once made me suck his dick. I sucked his dick. He brought me all the models. Ugh, please. So I said, I'll suck your dick. Give me the models. I did. And he had Zoli, and I was a child. Okay. And these people came to me. I did tests for Stephen Roth, Santi Falano. I was 18, 19. And I had an apartment on 56th Street, and you have to understand that I was a child, and these people, I began to drink wine and smoke pot, and it was a different world to me. It was a wonderful world. So what happened is, from Rose Reddy, I meet a lady called Natalie Payne and Wingate Payne. Wingate Payne was married to an older model, and she decided to open a shop for me with Diana Lambert, Eva St. Marie, all these models put the money into the shop, a brownstone that Mel Sikorsky, and Jordan Calfer stole his business from me. It's a long process, but I was very famous. I know about money. I had a house on Fire Island. I had cars, MGs, dogs, people, coke. But I was a child, 19 years old already. I was bored. I had a receptionist called Gwen Mazer, who became an editor at Harper's Bazaar. One day I walk into the shop. She's fucking my lover's Eric. She said, "Get out till I finish." Took a fucking knife, that. So I had all these things: confusion, people, drugs. A very unhappy life. So what I always say is that when I finally got to Dr. Max Jacobson, was a model who told me I was very unhappy. I see this doctor who's treating Kennedy. I said, if he's treating Kennedy, he could treat Monti Rock. Monty. My Monty was Monty Crespi then. So I go in a little waif with Melinda because I want male hormone shots, and I have no energy. I'm doing 80 people a day. I'm singing at Trudy Hell's. I just want a fucking shot. This shot. I was high for 5 days. I did 80 people a day. I jerked off, came, fucked, ducked, sang. I said, this shot's for me. $35, I could fucking come for a year, So I got hooked every. Trudy Heller was my neighbor in Fire Island. Eric Lunn and I had a house. And at the time in Fire Island, I was the biggest. I first of all wear long hair. The faggots hated me because the faggots were still wearing short pants, and everybody had their crotch out. It was crotch acts. I wouldn't do that. I was wearing very elegant clothes and had long hair and beads, and I was very beautiful looking for them, And a man called Louis Forer, I'll never forget this, Louis Forer, the crazy, Louis Forer, the greatest photographer in the world. This is a great photographer for Bazaar. And he came out to my house in the country and began to photograph me. Louis Forer was a genius. He ended up going out with Diva because he met her through me. And Louis Forer kept photographing me, and Scavullo photographed me, and a man called Avedon. Avedon chased me to Europe at a young. I didn't know what he was about, but he was a big photographer. And I began doing work for Richard Avedon. Scavullo used me with Iris Bianchi. I did the cover of 17 with Jill Harworth, Shirley Jones. This is a long time ago. So all that began to happen, but I didn't know what it was. The credit. What's a credit? You didn't make money. Now they charge thousands. Then you get a credit. I was at a shop more than I was in the shop. Meet a man called Melvin Sikorsky, who decides that he's going to make me the hairdresser with Ali McGraw, who ends up decorating my Ali McGraw, the fucking cunt, directs my shop. It makes me bankrupt, right? Ali McGraw and Jordan are fucking, and she's fucking everybody, and I'm fucking my salon with fabrics on the walls. I'm Puerto Rican. I just want to fucking work, right? You move to Europe, come back from Europe, buy this house on Fire Island with Eric, and my neighbor's Trudy Heller. She used to go topless with these ugly tits, and I had this, at the time, $200 house. I don't want to look at your fucking tits. My dog barking all the time. So I met her. I said, why are you topless? And she said, do you sing? And I said, I sang in church. I have a club. She had a fucking nothing. I created Trudy Heller's. I helped her. She had Morgana King, Blossom Dearie, all these fucking tired singers. I walked in there, rock and roll. Opening night was, everyone in the fashion business came. It became the in place to see Monti Rock III. My name was created by Barbara Condos, who was a hooker, and now she's a lady. She's married to Nabisco, married to these people, a friend of Ruth Saj. I met her through Ida Puente, and she gave my name Monti Rock because the third career was rock. Third Luna to the moon, the thing to the moon. So my name was Monti Rock III. Trudy Heller never paid me. I did hair during the day. Saks fired me because I posed in a nude. My assistants took my shops. It was always something happening, but I don't know how I survived. After that initial shock, nothing happened. I worked at Basin Street East. Finally, I want to go to Woodstock. They don't want to book me because they think that I didn't know what category. I said, I'm Monti Rock. I'm the man of the '60s, whatever it was. I didn't like Andy Warhol because he peed on his fucking paintings. I don't like the smell of pee, and you have to pee on a urine is on my trip. I'm not underground. I'm above ground. So I had this whole problem. I didn't want to be Andy Warhol. I didn't want to be jet set. I didn't want to be gay. I didn't want to be straight. I wanted to live on an island with Monti Rock and Monti groupies at the time, which were models, society women. I am.
Peeing on Andy Warhol.
He used to, when you walked in, urinate on his paintings.
Who did?
Everybody.
You had to? He made you do it?
Yeah, you drank beer and you painted his fucking paintings. Anyway, so I found that wasn't my trip. I didn't want people to pee. Jane Holzer peed. Everybody peed. Twatty peeing. So I felt that's what, and he wanted to put me in the movies. I didn't want to do that. So Andy Warhol was an asshole to me. So I ended up my camp, the Monti Rock camp, which was elegant, dressed with John Avari clothes, dressed elegant, and the models and socialites, not a fucking dime. And I meet a man called Tom Corbally. Tom Corbally was married to Gussie Moran and had one of the biggest dicks I had ever seen. The memory of this cock is still a big fucking memory. I could put it in my mouth, could put it up my ass, could put it anywhere. So I used to call people and come look at Tom's cock. Tom had Barbara Harrison, was married to Gussie Moran, adopts me, and he introduced me to El Morocco restaurant, buys me a chain from Cartier, put it on my waist. I became the most beautiful boy in Fire Island. I attracted straight men then, and I had this beautiful home. And I still had Eric Lund, but I was very unhappy with Eric because he was going to Europe, and it was a weird story. But I also was in love with Melinda. Melinda was a woman who was a model, who was maybe a dyke. I don't know what the fuck she was. She didn't know what she was. And I took her to Eileen Ford, and it was a time to be creative. So I was a singer, a hairdresser, a jack of all trades, but nothing happening. And basically, the Trudy Heller thing happened, Bay Street happened, until I did The Tonight Show, which is 1962-63, nothing happened for me. The Tonight Show, one time on television, created the character.
How'd you get to the Tonight Show?
To Ron Delsner. I wanted to go to Woodstock. They laughed in my face. I wanted to be in the Woodstock thing, and that's how they began managing me. I had some gangsters handling me. And they want to manage me. I said, if you want to manage me, get me in the Tonight Show. And I was working Kirby Stone 4, and I had a show. Hey, come on, baby, let the good times roll. Everyone came to see me then those days, because I was like an act that wasn't an act. It was a happening. You came to see me because let's go look at that faggot that sings a little bit. You know what I mean? And I talk like I'm talking now. And Johnny Carson came in and said, hey, Mr. Carson, am I too much for TV? He said, book him. Came backstage. The Tonight Show put I Got a Woman together as a joke to kind of put me down. And that night, with those 20 minutes, created this whole thing. Then I had Joey Bishop 4 weeks later, 3 weeks later, with Phil Forster, Kay Armand. They tried to destroy me in the air. People called in, wrote letters in. That media frenzy kind of put me over the top and made me a meteor. It's like current affairs, you know what I mean? It was like that big.
How many times did you appear on?
I say with reruns, 84.
84.
But with reruns, you know, that's so by 55, but reruns, I mean reruns. I call it reruns. Griffin then finds me, because the Tonight Show fires me at one point because of my drugs. I was doing a lot of coke, and their thing was a 1-on-1 and a martini, so I can talk. And I was very kind of like, you know, I want to get all in. Call me a self-starter, you know. But I always talked about my mother, and people loved me. I talked about my mom and talked about shit, you know, bullshit and crap. And I was the first media. Everyone came after. Diva came in, and all these other people. But I really had before Liberace. Yeah, I had the costumes. So that happened for me. But again, they didn't know what to do with me because I had no act. The act was that I was immediate, like you come, immediate gratification. So I'm a truly hell. You can't put me in a small club. I worked at the apartment 3 years. No making no money because I was a hairdresser. One day in a shop, I can make what I make in show business, you know. So it was an ego trip, basically. And then I met Milton Hamilton. Milton Hamilton was with Larry Kasher. He was an oboe player, the world's most famous oboe player. And I needed money to pay my apartment. And Barbara Streisand, hello, darling, this is Barbara. I said, what the fuck is Barbara calling Monti Rock for? And she said, is Milton there? I said, my Milton? She said, yeah, Milton. It seems that Milton is the only one that could play the album for Barbara Streisand albums. So oboe is a very incredible instrument. It seems every time this guy used to practice, he would get horny with his lips, with the oboes of your lips, and go out and get beat up. So he never wanted to put his mouth on the fucking oboe again. So get the fucking oboe in your fucking mouth and get the Barbara Streisand thing. So he gave me a piano, bought me a thing, and I caught him fucking a guy. I tried to kill him. My whole life was a turmoil of drugs. Through that period, I tried to commit suicide. I invited 600 people to my home, rented a coffin, and was going to kill myself because my career was over at the age of 32, 33, I think it was. And I was alone. I was very high. I was shooting up. I would take the shot and put it on the wall. It was destructive. And for all public consumption, I would drink a brandy or Courvoisier or martinis, having blackouts, shooting up, doing coke, hanging around gangsters. And whatever success I had, it was all gone. At that point, I want to kill myself. So I get a Tonight Show. I'm going to go back in the beauty business. I buy a place on 52 East 58th Street that belonged to Sassoon. I bought it and try to kill myself. And at the end of the party, I was having a good time. And I lived, and my lungs collapsed. The greatest story came out of the hospital. I was taking, at the time, Truanols and Secanols, and I was going to take 100. But during the party, I was having a good time. But I ended up at Roosevelt Hospital, an assumed name. Freddie Gershon got me in there. 3 weeks later, I'm signing autographs. They get me out of the wheelchair. They got my limousine with Barbara Condos, Carl Gerbich, and this guy Lenny, who saves my life. I'm in my limousine, and I can't. My lungs are clogged. Monty, don't talk. I said, I gotta talk. What do you want to talk for? I gotta ask this question. What's the question? I said, I gotta ask you. Okay, never do this to us again. I said, on the way to the hospital with the sirens going, I didn't want to miss anything. so I lived through that. Came back to my apartment, decided to go to California. Packed my things, go to LA with the guy who saved my life. And was going to go beauty shop, but I couldn't stand going to beauty school. Could not get a job. Pretty good beauty school. Ended up with hepatitis. Doing the Tonight Show a lot. Did some really lousy movies. Didn't want to sing. Didn't fit in LA because I did LA already 18 years ago. So now I'm older. I'm already the Tonight Show joke. I'm not an actor.
What age?
32, 33. So I really was already washed up, because I wasn't going to be a character actor. Hanging out with Perry Lopez, and I had a little relationship with Vic Morrow, who liked his dick sucked as a girl stuck a dildo up his ass. I did end up with Peter Lawford. That world, it was a horrible world because it was drugs, and Monty. Okay, I end up with hepatitis. End up in the hospital. The guy robs me, leaves me for dead. Anybody else would have given up. I end up working in a show. Meet David Orr, who tells me he's a gorgeous blonde man, that he has his parents have a house in Palm Beach, and he's going to take care. He gives me singing lessons, buys me a yellow Monte Carlo convertible, moves me to Outpost Road, and here I am with a blonde, gorgeous. I'm a kept woman at 32. I mean, singing lessons, lunch. I don't have to sing anymore. Whatever it was, and he ends up flipping out, taking all my money I have left, leaves me in this house, end up in the hospital again with hepatitis, and that's how I met Bob Crew, who created Discotheques. And Discotheques took me from a $300 act, Johnny Carson act, to $10,000 a night to $20,000 a night. That's 1972, 73, 74. So the transition from Monti Rock, TV star, hairdresser, to mainstream bubblegum disco artist was Bob Crew. He took all my money. I'm his friend today, but he never paid me. And I ended up in Saturday Night Fever. But I made a pact with myself that every dime I would make, I would spend on room service. I went to Mexico, and I decided that at my age, I should be the queen. So I had suites of rooms. I would buy jewelry, I would buy clothes, have limousines, and decided to go through $3 million. And that's why I'm not bitter, because I had a good time. So that, at the end of that, I came home to my mom, and I tried to make amends with my parents. Again, drugged up, high. The years in between there, Mrs. Ruth Bowen, who will probably be on this tape, found me. She created the act, put everyone black in my act, and I became one of the greatest attractions of the 70s. I mean, one of the big, 10,000, 20,000 a night.
Record sales?
Record sales, 7 million. Big act. But again, the drugs. I needed coke, alcohol. I wasn't sexual then. I was mostly getting high and feeling sorry for myself, but performing. During that time, I kept friendly with Freddie Gershon and Ruthie, who kept me afloat basically because I had the apartment in New York, had an apartment in California, and money was a tremendous amount of money. So how can you spend that kind of money? So every business I ever tried would fail because I was high. I was shooting up. You do a whiff of coke, you have a new career. During this time, I had a lot of lovers, a lot of people that loved me. But nobody really loved me the way I need to be loved. To love me, I think, is to take care of me and get me off the drugs. I think I was crying out for someone to save me. I think that's what I needed, is someone to really... I was a very strong personality. I wanted to get off drugs, but I couldn't because it was already part of me. It was part of my MO. So I lived that whole thing and ended up opening another beauty shop. I came to tell my mother I'm going to come home, and I would not get high again, but I would hide my drugs from my mother, back on the coke, same cycle. And I came here, I met Bruce. And Bruce, I think, is the only person who ever loved me in my life. And it's very hard to be with him now because I'm sober now. So he, I think, even today, loved me unconditionally then. You know, it was wild for me to find someone that helped me live. And I went through work in Aruba for 8 years. And then Ruthie wouldn't take my phone calls. So the phone calls wouldn't come in. I couldn't call people because I was still high, I guess. And Freddie Gershon would help me as much as he can. But it was a part, you know, it was hard. I was always needy, you know. Money, if it wasn't money, it was something. This time became the time that I began to, I think, be my most creative period. I began to write songs, try to write this book. And 5 years ago, on September 28th, I completed 5 years of being sober. In the 5 years, I'm just getting the answer now. In the 5 years that I've done this, I can look back, have no regrets, not one regret. I've done everything that I had to do to reach this point. So why should people feel sorry? I don't know. I think it's a person who is aware that you cannot change things. You have to go on with life. Friendship is very important to me. Friendship is a dear thing to me. Finding out that I have a voice that I can finally sing again. I feel like the kid that began in church singing. So the voice is there, and the wisdom is there. The information. And the information is that I'm here by the grace of God, or the grace of some higher power than myself, to have helped me come to this point that there is something to say, that my life has been spared for some great thing to share with the world. That there was a guy in the 60s, that I was an eyewitness to a world pre-AIDS that was free love, that was exciting, that was as lonely as I felt. There was a world out there that people were your friends. I mean, I survived by friends, by the kindness and generosity of my friends. It was a world that embraced me, but also when they were through with me, they would throw you discarded goods. It's discarded. You know, you were as good as your last laugh. So it's very hard for me now to think that way, but I know it's true. I've always been one to make my own way in life. I didn't have a parent to lean back. I don't have a rich family. I had to go and survive. I had to do what I had to do. And what I do is I do hair very well. I'm one of the best in the world. I still am one of the best. I'm going to open a saloon now, the Monti Rock Beauty Saloons. I know I have something to do with hair because I was the beginning of the blunt cut and about hair care. That's what I do. I'm developing creams. My book is about that you can do all the things you can do. You could be all things you want to be, but have time for yourself. So I'm saying that part of the being enigma, which is a wrong word to use, but the enigma is that I created something that the media bought because it was honest. It was disarming. How can this man be a Renaissance man? How can you live in this time and age when everything's automatic, everything is electric, everything's computerized? This fucking brain thinks in some kaleidoscope way of thinking. The kaleidoscope of life is that we're given choices.
This song is
The choices. And my choice is that I want to do a docudrama. A docudrama with insert of film. Interviews with Eileen Ford, Jerry, Scavullo, Avedon, Dorney Parker, my husband, people like Barbara Condas, Ruth Sard, because this is a story about the blueprint to survival, a blueprint to a wonderful life. With film, I am a legend in my own mind. My ego has always been bigger than my career, thank God. But I'm alive to talk about it.
Well, Monty, it's time to go to that big trunk up there in the sky.
I gotta say, can I say one short thing?
Yes.
I have no telephone because the phone strike. There's a phone strike.
Oh.
And I have to give the address of the place. I can't. I won't give the address of the place, but you can't miss it. It's on 58th Street.
Well, that's
My
fine.
way.
All right, Monty Rock and his final show business song.
And now it's ended. And so I think the fun is beginning. My friends, I say free, I take my choice, of which I'm certain. I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled and every time I travel in every and more, much more than this. I did it their way. Rigorous.
If you can mention, I did what I had to do, and saw it through without exception. I planned each careful step, each started course, along that highway.
Each careful step, each charted course, along life's highway, and more, much more than this. I did it my way. For what is a man? What has he got?
And spit it out, I faced you, and I stood tall, and it is my way. I laughed and cried.
My record show. I took the blows, the blows, the fucking blows, the fucking blows, the blows, the fucking blows. news is, I have never had a good review of my career, you can tell. I never had a good agent or a manager. I believe that what I have going for myself is courage. Give us a hand on that. To believe in yourself. To believe that you can go over and do what you got to do. Don't let anybody tell you no. Don't let anybody turn your dream a mess. Please go on, go on, go on and believe. And it is my way. Good night and God bless ya. I love ya.
This is Monti Rock III. This is like a docudrama to be like superimpose my films to show the kaleidoscope of my career and trying to go from the, we already did the part of Joey M. Monti Jr., the little boy from the Bronx. Now we're going to go up to how I became Monti Rock III. Monti Rock III actually was a figment of my imagination, but Barbara Condos in I guess it'd be 63, 64, Trudy Heller found me on the beach in Fire Island and wanted me to sing at her club, which was a Versailles then. It became Trudy Heller's 9th Street. It was a Blossom Dearie, Con McRae, Morgana King, a lot of singers, Bertha, some weird singers. But Blossom Dearie was the big performer, and so was a lady called, let me see, I would say Morgana was the big honcho there, but Carmen McRae as well, playing the piano. So I came in, and she wasn't making no money, so I was going to become rock and roll was in then, and I was a very ballad singer. So we got a band called Harvey K and the Commandos. Harvey K, Brenda K. Starr's father, had a band. I learned 4 songs, which I still do on Broadway, up on the rooftop. I don't know, it's 4 songs. And I opened the opening night in New York. Joe Euler came, Eugenia Shepard, Huntington Hartford, Sybil Shepherd, Dick Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Judy Garland. Everyone came to see this phenomenal hairdresser, singing hairdresser, the legend, the faggot, or some crazy person show. Because I was an expensive hairdresser. I was a rebel with a comb, I would call it. I was a rebel, like James Dean, with a comb. I was from the Bronx. I was a personality. The Jet Set loved. I could cut hair. People loved the way I cut their hair because I cut their hair so they can look good. So I became into fashion, but now I was going to leave that behind and become Monti Rock III. So Barbara said that there'd be the third lunar to the moon. It'd be rock. We're on the Fire Island walking on the beach. The third career to the moon. Opening night, I get all the publicity. I'll never forget how lonely I was after that evening. I had my limousine, went to my house on 68th Street, and it felt like next day I went to work. There's 60 women a day. I went back to work at Trudy Heller's. I never got a dime paid. Plus, I did the bitch's hair. And I got a lot of publicity. Then I posed a nude called Join the Truly Fabulous Monti Rock III. And Mrs. Sophie Gimble saw it and said I wasn't the image. Saks Fifth Avenue, she fired me. I went to, with Richard Avedon and Gene Shrimpton to Florida to do some pictures for Vogue. When I came back, my assistants, Maria, a wetback, took my following, and Saks fired me and took my customers. It was a very strange thing, but I overcame that. Show business did not give me money because how can you make an act out of no act? So I went to Eileen Ford. I did a few commercials. Benson and Hedges was one. With Peggy Moffat, I did play text. I did a lot of runway modeling. I also, at that time, began to use heavy drugs, and began to charge for bookings to $1,000. Those days, $1,000. I was the best editorial hairdresser at the time, meaning that I could do fashion. So I began to lend myself out to hairdressing and do that, and makeup and styling work. And show business still wasn't paying the bills, but I was a tenacious kind of man. So now, I'm doing The Tonight Show. This is after Trudy. Bruce Cooper, who's married to Wilhelmina, finds me. I'm on The Tonight Show. it's great, but no money. It's $250 or $300, how much it was. And that's biting into my time, that how to make money. So I went to an agency called GAC was first, Larry Bennett, and they had a man called Sandy Gallen. Sandy Gallen now has Whitney Houston, has Dolly Parton, has Joan Rivers. He was a small little agent of Queen at, he's the biggest. He has Michael Jackson as well, but in those days, he couldn't stand me. He said, I heard a saying that, get Tiny Tim, Monti Rock will never make it. Sandy Gallen's now the gay mafia here in Hollywood standard. Michael Jackson, how big can you get? Joan Rivers and Dolly Parton. So anyway, so I was like the kid on the block. Nobody would help me. I finally left GAC to go to Ted Ashley, Ashley Famous Agency, and they put me on television, talk shows, try to get me in pilots, but I can't read, so I couldn't do very well in that. Sent me on a college tour, which I got fired from. This was like, it was just kept going on. Now, what I'm trying to say, all these years that I worked, I never made any money in show business, but I got notoriety, I got famous, I got jet set. I began to use a lot of drugs, Max Jacobson, Dr. Fryman, Dr. Bishop. These were Dr. Feelgood. I began to get heavy into drugs, and at the same time was very unhappy. Although I tried to open a beauty shop, I would close beauty shops, open beauty shops, do fashion, but my heart was in show business. And the word star means that I want to be a star no matter what it took. The loneliness that I found in those years was something that I can't even fathom to explain. But at the same time, my tenacious kaleidoscope mind will not give up. This time, the Tonight Show has me booked once a month. I have a contract with NBC, which they now disagree because they didn't want me on the Griffin Show. I was doing Griffin, I was doing Hair, I was doing Mike Douglas, and I was doing Johnny. Plus doing my drugs. Larry Cash's lover who came to teach me music. I wrote some songs with Bobby Jameson. I met Seymour Stein for Sire Records, who now has Madonna, and Richard Goddard wrote some songs with them, but I had a problem sexually with them, and they have an album, and they burned it. Again, my life when I did some movies that were not good movies, but they were movies. And I leave for Hollywood after committing suicide, trying to commit suicide in my home. I want to die, but I wanted to die not like die. I just wanted to die as a ceremonial thing. You know, like I wanted to die and give everybody some paintings, some jewelry. And I ended up living because I wasn't meant to die. From that moment on, California was a disgusting situation because I arrived there with my lover Lenny, who saved my life, so I felt very in tune because he saved my life. And he was like a queen who was a hairdresser. I made him Lenny Lindstrom because I was going to market him. I said, look, I gave him a blueprint how to be a hairdresser. And he never had, see, hairdressing is a touch. You have to have a touch. You can't teach people if you don't got the touch. You can do technical, but charisma and your hands come from the guards. California was very cold to me. Agents would not see me. I went around, made rounds. I begged. I sucked. I fucked. I did everything I could not get arrested in California, except for the Tonight Show. I get hepatitis. I end up in the hospital. Lenny robs me, my jewelry. I have no money, no cars. I meet a doctor who kind of saves my life. These moments are very clear in my head. Again, nothing really happened until 1972, when by chance, Wes Farrell, who's still in my life, and a lady called Diane Bennett, who was a PR lady, and she got me Wes. Wes Farrell did my first records in the 1960s, late 60s. Still a friend of mine today, had Frank Sinatra, was married to Tina Sinatra. And he was a very loyal man to me, so he heard the record from Bob Crew, which I got $28,000 for Jody Hamel, which I paid him back. The record became number 3, never went to 1. One of the big disappointments of my life is that record never hit 1. It's one of the ironies of my life. I became a big star, but never hit 1. 10 and 1. I Want to Dance With You became number 10. The album went 1, but it still, it kind of irks you. Now, how do you create an act? That is the big question. How do you transcend a recording artist who basically is a black act, who's bubblegum, who's a joke in the industry, who no one wants to take on because he's Monti Rock III. So the story is that Bob Crew, one day at the dinner table, told me, Monty, the name Monti Rock III is very bad. We're going to change your name to Discotex. Now remember this, you're no longer Monti Rock. Now I'm an egomaniac. I have worked my ass off to be Monti Rock, and I'm on the Tonight Show. And he wants to forget about Monti Rock and become Discotex. I sold my soul to the devil. But I move in a big house. I get great parties, singing parties. Bob is very good to me in the beginning. The record, I go back to Florida to open a beauty shop again. I'm working for Saks Fifth Avenue in Bell Harbor and one in Fort Lauderdale for $100 a haircut. It's not working out very well because I'm bored. I'm singing a little bit. But nothing is basically gelling, you know. And my mother, I'm doing my drugs, my coke, my pot, and being a total asshole, the word fucking asshole, walking around town being the happy has-been with no record. And don't forget, I'm like 38 or something. I'm driving from my shop in Bell Harbor on 95. You never forget the first day you hear that record. You never hear the first day. I don't care who you are. The first day you hear this album or you hear this record, it is something that stays with you. 95, I pull to the side, hear my record, tears in my eyes. And I hear doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. This is the album, actually. This is my album. This is Discotex. Okay. Discotex and the Sexolettes. So Discotex and the Sexolettes was a bubblegum hit, Get Dancing, I Want to Dance With You. It sold 7 million records worldwide. It was the first record to go to Venezuela, to Japan, to Germany. Paldo International took it upon. From $28,000, this album sold more records than any album that I ever did. Now, I got to tell you what happened. I was so absolutely enamored of having a hit record that everyone who wouldn't talk to me, everyone who would look at me, everyone in New York, I came from New York City, I stayed at the Warwick Hotel. I had a limousine. West Farrell got me clothes. Don't forget, I had no money. But all of a sudden, room service became the big thing. Room service, baby. And the party at Elaine's restaurant, the media, again, no money. And I'm making the rounds so I get an agent with a hit record, number 4 or 5. Nobody would sign me because I needed some money. And that's how I met Ruth Bowen. And Ruth Bowen, I walk in to this agency, and it's a black agency, but I didn't know it was, you know. And there was Murray Schwartz, by the way, was a crazy agent. It was a big agent to LaBelle and all these people. And they had Sammy Davis, and they had all these big stars. And Ruthie meets me, and it's instant that she likes me. And she said, I'm a black agency. I said, well, I'll be your token white. She said to me, do you have a band? I said, no, I ain't got a band. So they got Herbie Moon. Get that band clear or something. You have any singers? No. They had a gospel group, Jocelyn Brown. Where do you want to open? I said, I want to open in Madison Square Garden. She said, the kid's got fucking balls, man. I opened in Madison Square Garden, sold out. Latin Casino. I went from being a broke person to making $10,000 a night to $20,000 a night. You know what it's like to go, the first thing I did a shopping spree, never forget that. I went on Madison Avenue with dollars and went shopping. Stuff I didn't even want, but I just went there I wanted those bags, those boxes, you know what I mean? And then I met a guy called Sandy Arell, who was a closet queen, who, my baby gangster. I always wanted to be Glenda Farrell. So I met this guy that was supposed to be straight, like to get his cock sucked or whatever it was. And I adopted his children, put them in my trust fund. I was about making a fortune, but again, I didn't feel good about myself. Now the record hits number 3. I'm the biggest attraction around. I have to do they kept saying one-hit wonder. I didn't forget one-hit wonder. Monti Rock discotheques can't have another hit. Right? So now I have to come up with what they call a hook. And Bob Cruz in California, I'm a hit star. I'm going to London, Puerto Rico, no, in Mexico, I'm the biggest thing that ever hit Mexico. Again, the unhappiness, the coke, the alcohol, the shopping, the room service, the shopping, the room service, buying apartments, buying clothes, being good to my parents, being good to a lot of people who didn't deserve it, but insecurity, not liking myself, had a lot to do with this spiral, a man who felt he didn't deserve success. I think in my line is that you work so hard to get it that you don't feel you deserve it. You mean? So now I have a second record, I Want to Dance with Chew. With Chew is W-I-T-T, Chew, C-H-O-O, Bob Crew, with Chew for Puerto Rico. And that record hits right away. It goes to 10, and I got 2 hit records. So I can do concerts, and I go with the Ohio Players. I become the opening acts to the Fifth Dimension, Who Cannot Stand Me. And everyone in my show is black, and I'm doing like black humor, like, you know, whatever the shit is. And I do the Latin Casino twice, and become one of the big hits around. Again, this went on for about 3 or 4 years. Coke, Europe, Mexico, New York, working for my room service, for my clothing, to take care of my mother, my father, my brothers, friends. I wanted to buy love. I wanted something. I wanted good drugs too, you know. I mean, let's be honest here. And I wanted to get laid, but I didn't get laid because I was so busy being fabulous, you know. Now, this all, to me, was very strange because I don't remember much about it because it's very hard to say. It was a big thing. Ruthie kept me alive, and I had some nice times, and I worked. I made a lot of money. And then I hear that I have to do a second album. This is about a year later. I said, a second album, you know, a second album? I have enough fun doing one fucking album. And I'm not talking to Bob Crew because he had changed my name now, Monti Rock. I'm trying to sue. I'm getting money here and there, like 20,000, whatever it was. And Kenny Nolan was a singer on my first album who was diabetic. And I said, look, get that kid Kenny, you know, asshole, you know. Second album, we named it Manhattan Millionaire. In this album, I'm erased from it. I'm only on 2 tracks. It could have been the hit. 2 records became hits in London. I had to go, I sound like the Four Tops on steroids. This album, Manhattan Millionaire, was very big in London, but because I wasn't on it, it was very hard to sell me and package me. West Farrell and Chelsea Records now has Paldo International, which is a German company in London. Peter Sibley and Paldo wants to buy me for $250,000 in cash. My mother company, who hadn't paid me, doesn't want to let me go. This is all happening to me. I drink, I take drugs. I'm with a gangster who's taking my money. I had 2 kids I adopted. I'm taking home to my mother, clothing. I'm shopping. I'm destructive. I'm unhappy. I can't find Ruthie's a good agent, but I couldn't find an agent to take me to my next plateau, which would have been television or film. And I'm wearing a lot of makeup because I was very shallow skinned. This is my skin. And from the drugs, I was 130 pounds. It was very hard to look good. But I was witty. I was fabulous. I was divine. I was a star. I was 39, 38, whatever it was. And unhappy. My unhappiness basically was, I felt unloved. I felt people wanted me for my money. I felt there was no life for me. And I came home again. This time I came home with trunks of clothes, an album breaks, some moderate hits, go back to London, Top of the Pops, tour Germany, go back to Mexico for a couple of months. The cycle of the drugs already was catching up to me. I was losing my liver. I was getting hepatitis a lot. I was always drinking rum and coke, brandy, and a lot of vodka at that point. And I was drinking all the time, but I functioned. Limousines all the time. But most important, it was the fact that I was totally unempty. Unhappiness. There was no unhappiness greater than the man who takes drugs, who tries to Novocaine or to kill the pain. By this time, I'm here in Florida again, and things begin to gel. I meet a man called High Utel, the crazy. He used to own the Morocco in New York and advising, and he meets me. I have a business called Rent a Star. I have a hit album, so I rent myself out to Venezuelans. I speak español, soy puertorriqueño. I rent you out for $100 an hour, and I get a limousine, and you could tip me, and I gave you a hard luck story. I'm Monti Rock, and I have my villa, and Marbella, and fucking Marbella, and Cacatutu, and I'm fabulous. I have long, long hair, and diamonds everywhere, and limousines, and that worked for a while. And I meet a man called High Utel who owns the Place for Steak. I walk in one night. He says, "Who's that?" Almost that masked man, he must have said. And that's how I got a job as a host, where I survived there for 7 years. When I didn't work, I worked as a host, one of the world's greatest hosts. From that I got Aruba for 7 years too, with Nita de Valbenhagen. I met Michael Lewis. I met a man called Larry Spellman, who really has destroyed my career. In this I'll tell you the whole story about Larry, because this is a long story about some agents who only use it when you're hot and then discard you. It's like you're unusable goods. But I met a lot of things, and I did a lot of records, and I did a lot of working here. But again, hairdressing again. I met George Ciffoni. I met certain people that used me for fashion at a very high price. Opened a few businesses here that died on me because of drugs. I didn't pay attention. As Michael Lewis came along to do the show, I opened I opened at the Sarah Hotel to a tremendous hit. Go on tour to Chicago, to Detroit. I toured the country twice with a dresser called Charles Ellsworth, who was a kleptomaniac who would steal silver. I mean, forget about this whole movie. With a big band, big show. Clubs, Hemingway's, Aruba, big show. Unhappy, drugs, coke. All through this, my lover and my friend and my soulmate is Bruce, who is basically the man that has remained in my life in spite of my spiral. Buried my mom, my sister, and has tried really to keep it together, give me a home. This is the first time I've never been with anybody this long, with a house, and plus I worked. He became my manager at that point because we needed money, so he could get on the phone and get the money in front. Money was no problem. It's dealing with the act. I get bored. I'm a person who gets bored very easily. Life is, to me, conversation, wit, and bullshit. That's the name of my book originally, Charm, Wit, and Bullshit. I can't be around people that are boring. I can't be around people that are not exciting. And certainly I like people who have money, and which I always kind of don't like to dwell on that, but if you don't have money, how can you enjoy my wit? I mean, so Rent a Star was a way to meeting certain people and having dinner and being accessible to wonderful restaurants. I love the ceremony of dinner. I've always loved, I don't drink martinis now, but in those days I liked my martini. I had great stories. I made the evening work. I did your hair. I picked your clothes. I tried. But again, it's the idea that the person who is so dynamic, the person who's kaleidoscope mind, the person who's so schizoid, the person who is so needy, people get tired of my excessive, compulsive, addictive personality, which is I swap one addiction for the other, or I'm excessive with friends as well. So you have this problem, and of course, and I think in a way I'm a loner, because I like being alone. I like the oneness I have with myself, with my essence of life. I find that one thing I always say, that I happen to like my essence. I happen to like myself in some extraordinary way, with all my quirks and totally the enigma of Monti Rock and the myth. I kind of created it, so I kind of like it. I mean, I made up this fucking story. I became this piper, this person who created this phenomenal creature. It's incredible. And you go about and you create this person who's bigger than life, how do you make money? How do you survive, you know? I love good clothes, good company, good food. I love to travel. So certain things that you don't change. To this very day, I don't clean the house. I don't cook. I rarely fuck. So I have all these problems. I'm totally not in tune to life. I mean, as a young boy, I was very physical, certainly, and I had all that shit. I mean, I make love, but I'd rather make love to myself. I'm so involved with myself. But that takes a lot of guts to say, but it's a person who evolves, you know. So you go through life and you create this person that's bigger than life. I tried to write a book 12 times. I met a drunken lady called Sullivan. I wrote the book there. I just found Michael Mills. Last night I was having dinner. I met another writer. But this is the way to tell a story. This is the way that Ed Seeman and I feel we see this in a show. As I break, I believe when a show breaks, isn't it wonderful to have a break and have film, an interactive idea that the actor who's on stage, you can see this in a visual form by putting my films together, by putting my life in a way that you as a public understand that this is a man who has been in the media, who has been created by himself, who has done it without corporate sponsorship, without Sony. It's done it by strictly a telephone, an enthusiasm, a belief in my insanity, and the creation of my total absurdity of life. I created something that is something very unique. I created a genie in a bottle. Why I'm selling products is because what I am is, again, a hairdresser. It all stems from the man who did hair, who created fashion, who created all these ideas that the woman or the essence of the book is the fact that we all are armored with some kind of strength that's inner strength. Okay, so the inner strength that we get, we have to remember that we are our own. This is the word I'm trying to use. We're censors. We censor ourselves. We tend to be reporters. We tend to be, if we have knowledge, we give wisdom. We try to give words. I mean, I've been watching myself lately. For Ed, I've been doing the films. I can't believe that's the guy in the films. I've done some great movies. But again, except for John Banham, I couldn't find a director that was good enough to direct me, because how can you direct a person who's already an actor? I mean, I would like to play a killer now. I would like to now to get a gun and do a part with Bruce Willis playing the faggot sidekick and killing the fucking crew. I mean, I like to do a part that's worthy of my persona. Yeah. So the persona comes in from years of learning that we are all here for one purpose: to create, to teach, to talk, to share our knowledge and our wisdom. This is a film, this is a show. It's called An Intimate Evening with Monti Rock III. It is the beginning of how my life started. This is the idea. The idea, you're seeing me naked. When you see the character, or the caricatures, I call them, the cartoon character, because I am a cartoon. The cartoon of Monti Rock is the fact that this mind doesn't work like any mind in the world. It works like in a way that it tends to step on its own lines. I step on its own lines. And the thing is, I want to thank you. This is volume 2.
Take 3.
Hello, this is Monti Rock III. Now, I'm trying to get a part of the story in, so you get an idea. First of all, there's a Tim Leary wedding. I'm in New York City, and I hear this word. Nena von Schlieberg, who is now the mother of Una Furman. Nena von Schlieberg was a big model marrying Tim Leary, the LSD king. And Tim Leary, Peggy Hitchcock, who was the Mellon heiress, is a friend of mine. Peggy Hitchcock was this very strange lady, a friend of Barbara Condos and Van Wuth, who was the PR person to the guy, Mike Todd. So he is living in his house on 72nd Street and I'm hanging out with these people, and they're all a lot of drugs. And I never forget that the World's Fair opened. And what year was it? The World's Fair opened up, and I went to the opening of the World's Fair. There was an ice skating ring and all this stuff. But the big thing was the wedding of Tim Leary in Millbrook. It was the LSD where everybody, all the guests took LSD. There was Diane Orbis, who was my photographer at the time, my chauffeur called Dippy, and a girl called Darlene DeSetley. We'd drive up to Millbrook in this big estate that the Mellons had bought for their daughter with Billy Hitchcock, Aurora Hitchcock, Murnau and Flo Ferguson, who ended up stealing my apartment, stole my fucking apartment on 68th Street, beat me for all this furniture, never paid me any rent, a fucking trouble player, suck job. And I'm like flipped out of my fucking mind. I'm on LSD and I drive up there to do this hair. There's a film that we're spurting here with Tim Leary, who's going to marry Nana, and Dr. Alpert, who's now the Hamba Boo Boo Kaka doctor. Now he's a guru to the higher world. I knew when he was a faggot before the Gaga Kaka. I'm going to become the Google Gaga. So anyway, so I'm up there, and everybody's in LSD. It's a wedding, and it's a church, and there comes Nana, and there comes Tim Leary. There's a wedding. People are fucking in the breeze. People are walking like that, and that's LSD, right? And we stay for 3 days, and everybody's finding out the inner being. I found out that I can't wait to go home. I mean, I was so fucking tired. My beard was coming out. My hair was fucking out. My fur coat was freezing. I mean, enough of an estate. I belong in the city. So I drive back with my chauffeur, and I come to Manhattan, and the story is the same. This is a story about, I feel like Gertrude Stein. I'm like the reporter reporting to you what was going on. I was a token asshole that was invited to report to you what these fucking rich assholes were doing. Fucking each other, incest. I mean, it was a problem. So I was like, go to my doctor, because in his doctor's office, Max Jacobson, who treated President Kennedy and treated Marlene Dietrich, treated all these people, treated me. Was I fucking strange? I mean, that was a weird one. So part of the whole thing that was happening, I was part of this culture that was the 60s, early 70s, trying to really cultivate some sense of where I belong. Was I gay? Was I straight? Was I a singer? Was I a hairdresser? Was I a fashion? Was I a femme fatale? What was I? I was a lover of life who simply went out there to give people joy. In return, I hope to get some money here and there, and people did give me presents. I kind of always been, the hustler was always there, but there was always the drugs. I hustled for drugs, give me coke, give me this, give me that. Still doing hair, still doing Mademoiselle, doing Vogue, working for Dick, working for Scavullo, living on Fire Island. Strange time for me. But again, I want to be in show business. There was Trudy Heller. There was the world of New York. New York in the 60s was absolutely the most phenomenal place to be. We had Gus Tassell. We had James Garner. We had Gina Shepard. We had Halston. I never forget Halston's great story. I used to do a lot of drugs and go to dinner parties, darling. And I walked my little dog Zozo, and I walked this party with my long nails. And I said, "Hello, darlings." How is it? And everybody was like, "Hi," stoned out of their fucking minds. I said, "How can you look so beautiful and be high?" Because I always do my makeup first. I always put my paint guy, roll my arm, and shoot up. I was a glorified drug addict, meaning that I call it designer drugs. I had a designer dog, a little 2-pound dog called Zozo, who later on I found out that Roberta and Barbara Kondo stole from me, who remained my friend, stole my fucking dog from me. How could you even do that to me, Barbara? And then you don't want me to talk about you getting shit on by Dr. Carpenter. When I do my book, I'm going to get you in by all the stuff you did to me that I found out. You stole my dog. You never really accepted me because you were using me as a catalyst for you to meet for your apartments, where do you get this fucking thing? You're one of the victims of the bullshit that I fucking went through. And now you're a lady. I'm the lady here, baby. So the idea of life is that I had to tell you that this was a time in New York that I was really dealing with the people that wanted to be in. I was out, so because I was out, they always have someone like me who's out because they want you to be in, because they need someone who's like the court jester, the jet set they call it. So you're the jester, you're the man that makes everyone laugh. You're the man. Once in a while they give you an occasional fuck, you know what I mean? An occasional fuck to keep you interested and promise you a house in the country, which is rented. So my whole life has been the beauty shop, Ali McGraw decorating my shops, Melvin Sikorsky, who has bad muscles, Jordan Kalfas, Scavullo, Avedon, all these people at one time in my life, and Halston trying to be my friend. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who and what was happening. I just knew that I was just on some journey that had to take me somewhere. The word that I find that I use now is that I was there to report to you what was the 60s about. It was about free love, It was about really thinking you're having a good time. It was about the fashion. It was about the last of the Mohegans, the last of the last people who came here to have a good time. I think that I was a witness to the last settlers of a beautiful world. We still had some innocence left. I think that we were part of a world that basically didn't want to hurt each other. Yeah, you got robbed once in a while. You let somebody in, you got high, you got mugged. I mean, once in a while, hey, shit, you passed out. But for all in all, you can leave your doors open and leave your drawers open. It was a time to really understand that we have passed a society that's no longer innocent. We no longer can be innocent because we get killed. People are desperate. There's no welfare. I mean, I hate to be political, but we're losing our Social Security. We're losing everything because we're going bankrupt. So we're going bankrupt emotionally. We're going bankrupt politically. We're going bankrupt in our government. So, what I'm saying to you, all we have now is cameras, action, stories. I'm a storyteller telling you what the 60s were about, what the 70s were about, what London was about, the Coupole in Paris, what was Doreen Lee Parker about, who's coming here this week, what was La Coupole about, what was like hanging around in Paris with Antonia, and all these fucking people that were fantastic. I didn't know they were fabulous. I met a man called Donald Campbell, Deborah Dixon, who became he's a big director now. He painted me, one of the biggest cocks I ever knew too. I mean, these people hung around. Albie Baker, the Jewel Feet, Carol Brodico, an illustrator, Bill Berger. I mean, all these people were around me, hanging out with me. I had no money. I was traveling here, traveling there, traveling to Germany. It was all part of society trying to have fun, trying to understand that we came to settle to really be the free love. It wasn't about being gay then. It was about being, hey man, everybody fucked. Everybody had a good time. Everybody had a good time. I was at the menage a trois way before it was legal. But life at one point, we began to get a little older, a little more callous, a little more bitter. We began to compromise. We began to change our whole way. Now I become, 77 comes around, I become Disco Tex, change my name, Disco Tex, and so Let's Get Dancing, 7 million records, Doo-Doo-Doo, second album, My Hat Millionaire, They Erased Me from the album, my third album, A Thing Called Love, A Piece of Rock. All these albums I did, Saturday Night Fever, Sgt. Pepper's, all these movies, were part of me keeping myself in the media, keeping myself in front of you. Short hair, blue hair, short shave, charisma, cosmic, cool, shave. The idea was always changing, keeping your interest. Interest. Keeping you alerted that the big rock is among you. An observer of life. Observing your bad manners. Observing your humor. Observing how you lost your money, how you got your money, and how much you gave me. Did you give me money lately? So part of this film that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to raise money to make this a capsule for the young generation to see who is Monti Rock III. What is Monti Rock III? His name is Joseph Moses Montanez Jr., a Bronx, Puerto Rican Dalai Lama, raised among you in a flock of sheep. That's good, isn't it? Raised with my fucking shepherds. To come out to you, to really see the world. The world to me has always been a wonderful experience. Paris to me was the best because Paris at the time was Kuka, Chanel, Guillaume, Alexander. It was to me, as a Puerto Rican kid in the Bronx, Paris, the city was beautiful. The Plaza Vendôme, the Eiffel Tower. The city had history. So I believe in traveling. London was a time of it was a different time. It was Hassoun's time. It was a different time for me actually at the time. But it was a great thing for a kid from the Bronx to be the queen there. I got bored again. I came back to America. This has been also the time that I have to say, this film that we're doing, which is inspired by my media, all the photographers' pictures. I've been photographed by Dick, by Irving Penn, by Sonny Fulano, by the top photographers I always photograph because I always want to be photographed. It's like I always kept a journal. And photographers keep a very big, they keep their pictures perfect. So you can see all these pictures, all this life.
of what I call a legend in my own mind. I'm a legend in my own mind. The kaleidoscopic mind, right? My ego has always been bigger than my career. My sense of living, my sense of feeling, my sense of loving, my sense of essence. And it's certain, the one thing I said, integrity has always been part of my life. But being around this whole thing, I have learned that there's a lot of information to give. We have tried to write a book. We have tried to write this book. First of all, how many times do you want to hear the true story? I'm trying to commit suicide. How I met Johnny Carson. How I got into the movies. I can't read. How I did theater. Who I fucked, what I fucked, when I fucked. Really, it's all irrelevant. It's what the names were. What they had for breakfast. I've met some fabulous people in my life. And they liked me. Because I was someone who totally believed that everyone is interesting. You give anybody 10 minutes to give you information, and it's done. But again, the fashion world, show business, the media, Johnny Carson, I've always kept myself in tune. My audience is 35 to 60, I know that, but I want a young audience to see the fact that there were people in this pre-A generation that were fabulous. We lived an incredible life. We had all great, great, great worlds. Now we have to settle back and see the life of Monti Rock III, see the legend, live the legend, live the legend, see the movie, see the movie. Again, we're looking for backers. We're looking for somebody out there who can develop the show. It's a film, interactive. Movies, television. I'll be musical. I'll be theater. I'll be dramatic. I'll be killing myself. I'll be singing. I'll be acting. I'll be making you laugh. Think of me as Gertrude Stein without Alice Vitopoulos. This is the story of a survivor. This is the book. This is 1995. With Monti Rock saying, "Hi Johnny, I'm still working."
And stepped right in the heart of it. New York, New York. I wanna wake in a city that doesn't sleep to find I'm king of the hill.